Hello and welcome to U.S. History 2. In this course, we'll be exploring one of the most exciting and transformative periods in American history. From the aftermath of the Civil War to the post-war boom in the 20th century, we will delve into the challenges and triumphs of a nation in transition, from the fight for civil rights to the rise of industrial power. Through 2 world wars and a Great Depression, we will learn about the events, people, and ideas that shaped the course of American history. Get ready to journey back in time. Today, we'll start with a review of the Civil War to gain our bearings, and then begin a close look at how the United States tried to move forward when the dust settled. Your learning objectives are: review the causes and effects of the Civil War, compare and contrast Abraham Lincoln's 10% plan with the radical Republicans' plan for Reconstruction, and summarize the achievements and setbacks that occurred during Lincoln's presidency. The vile practice of slavery made the United States a house divided against itself. The South embraced slavery while the North strongly opposed it. Northern attempts to end slavery led Southern states to secede from the Union and form a separate country, the Confederate States of America. The Confederacy started a war against the Union, attacking a Union fort in South Carolina. After 4 years of fighting at considerable expense and over 620,000 deaths, the Union won the war. Most of the fighting took place in the South, and after the war, those states were physically and economically devastated. To be clear, even though the Union prevailed, white supremacy and racial discrimination persisted across the South and among some people in the North. The turbulent era that followed the war is called Reconstruction. During this time, political leaders were tasked with solving many problems, including addressing the issue of slavery and ensuring rights for Black Americans, physically rebuilding the country, promoting economic recovery, and readmitting Southern states to the Union to restore their representation in the federal government. It was a tall order that would be hard to fill, and Americans disagreed on the best approach. The tricky part about Reconstruction policy was that nothing like this had ever been done before in American politics. But the Constitution required a representative government for all Americans, so restoring the Union had to happen. There were many ideas about how to go about Reconstruction, but we'll focus on 2 plans: Lincoln's lenient approach and the Republican Party's strict approach. Lincoln's 10% plan promoted healing and unity. In his second inaugural address, he said,
"With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds."
Now, because he was more interested in restoration than punishment, Lincoln made lax standards for readmission. His plan would require 10% of the eligible voting population to swear an oath of loyalty to the Union. In it, Southerners had to accept emancipation of all enslaved people and denounce slavery. Upon taking the oath, they would automatically receive a pardon or legal forgiveness for any crimes relating to the war. After the 10% threshold had been met, a state could elect representatives, revise their state constitution, and send representatives to Congress. Many Republicans in Congress believed Lincoln's plan was too lenient. Estimates suggest that the war cost over $6 billion in 19th century money. That amount was more than enough to purchase every enslaved person in the country, emancipate them, and to give each family 40 acres of land and a mule. So some believed that Southerners should have to work harder to make up for all the damage they had caused. A faction of politicians known as radical Republicans formed, promoting strict Reconstruction policies. In 1864, radical Republicans passed the Wade-Davis Bill, which promoted a different Reconstruction plan. It required more than half of eligible voters in the state to swear the oath. Lincoln's plan had banned only high-ranking officers and politicians in the Confederacy from holding public office. The Wade-Davis Bill denied the rights to vote or hold office for anyone who volunteered to fight for the South. Lincoln vetoed the bill. The president believed that punishing Southerners or making them work hard to rejoin the Union would make them resent the North more than they already did, and he thought it would delay the process. The Wade-Davis Bill worked against his vision of unity and healing. Now, which plan do you think is the best approach? Lincoln's or the radical Republicans? Capture your thoughts in your PDF. Now, it's hard to say which would have been best. Let's take a look at what was actually accomplished during Lincoln's second term. In 1865, Republicans made great strides. The most important among them was the 13th Amendment, which finally banned the practice of slavery everywhere in the United States. Congress also created a Freedmen's Bureau, a federal agency that provided aid to emancipated people. It offered schooling, food and clothing assistance, medical supplies and services, managed lands captured in the Civil War, helped people register to vote, and provided legal services like supervising work contracts between freedmen and employers. These services were essential for helping emancipated people begin to build a life. But it would be a long and difficult journey for newly freed people. They still faced many hardships. Many Southerners who did not really support emancipation challenged freedmen's ability to assert their rights and discriminated against Black workers and families. Those families often were impoverished because they had nothing but the shoddy clothes on their back when they were freed. Many lacked any job skills other than farming, which led to few job opportunities. In many instances, they worked the same land they had worked before for the same people that had owned them, but for pay and crops. Many Southerners were not happy with the way things were going in 1865. They had seceded from the Union, fearing exactly what Lincoln and the radical Republicans were doing through the 13th Amendment and the Freedmen's Bureau. There was no real end to the Civil War because no treaty was struck. So Congress had passed these achievements without any Southern representation in Congress. Just 5 days after Lee surrendered to Grant and Appomattox, President Lincoln attended a play at Ford's Theater. While he was there, Southern actor John Wilkes Booth snuck into his private booth and shot the president in the head. He died a few hours later. This tragedy showed that Southerners opposed his re-election as strongly as his first election. And despite his lenient Reconstruction plan, they didn't want to change or rejoin the Union. Moving forward was going to be tougher than anyone thought. Let's review what we've learned. Slavery had broken America apart. The Reconstruction era involved policymaking aimed at putting the pieces back together. Politicians worked to promote civil rights, physically rebuild Southern cities, kickstart the economy, and figure out how to move forward together. But there was no consensus on the procedure. Lincoln wanted forgiveness and healing, and for Southerners to participate in reforming the country. Radical Republicans wanted stricter policies and punishment for Confederates. Despite the disagreement, there were some amazing accomplishments during Lincoln's second term, including the passage of a 13th Amendment, which ended slavery, and the Freedmen's Bureau, which provided aid to freed people beginning to build a new life. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Then, just days after the end of the war, there was a huge setback. Lincoln's assassination took a beloved leader and voice of calm and healing out of the process. clearly there was much more work to do. In our next lesson, we'll learn about the Johnson administration, in which things didn't exactly play out the way Lincoln would have wanted. Until then, historians, remember, shaping the future begins with understanding the past.
Hey!